Hey guys, Mr. C here. Sorry, we're using the computer microphone, so I might scratch it at some point. Sorry about that. I honestly don't even know where the microphone is. Hello, can you hear me? Is that too loud? I don't know. I scratched somewhere at some point. Maybe it's in one of the speakers. Is that loud? I don't know. Anyway, okay, so let's go over what we did today. The point of what we did today was to abstract index.php into a folder of its own where it is the only folder, and that is the only file that is exposed to the public internet. We then use an htaccess file to redirect all traffic to that index.php file, and depending on which URL folks are coming in on, we can determine what content they should see. And if, let's say, they come in on /contact, we want to reach out to the database table and pull in the contact information and display that in the index.php. But the public won't know that index.php isn't or is the only file that's being loaded up. It just kind of adds a little bit of security by not having all of our includes in the publicly accessible folder. So, cool. Let's get started. So we're going to first create a folder. Now you can either right-click here and choose New Folder, or from the command line here, make sure wk11 is selected, and you can type mkdir, which is short for make directory, and you can call it public. And all lowercase. There it is. And we're going to take this index.php file and drag it into that public folder. Cool. All right, now we're going to create our htaccess file. So we're going to touch .htaccess. Make sure that your show hidden files is enabled, otherwise it won't show up here. And then I'm going to double click on this and then head on over to my Patino AWEB 1819 Patino AWEB repo, and I'm going to go to branch 10 and open up the htaccess file and just drag select all this, copy, and back over here, paste. Cool. All right, and then save that file. All right, so now all files or all requests that come in on this URL will be redirected to public index.php. Cool. All right, next up, we need to open up index.php, and we need to correct the linkage to these requires and include files because connect.php and head.php are no longer located at the same folder level as index.php. So we have to tell Apache to go back one folder and access it there. And back one folder would be out of public and into week 11. So we'll add // and we need to do that to all 4 spots here where we are requiring or including any files. All right, save that. All right, now in the nav table, oh, you know what? Let's finish up over here before we get into the table stuff. So our next thing that we need to do is inside of this index.php file, we need to be able to look at the URL segment and to which URL segment's being called. And we did that over in our repo here a couple weeks ago inside the index.php file, which is in the public folder here. this part of this, so from line 3 to the first part of line 8, is what grabs the URI path and separates it into the little sections, and then this takes the very last element in that array and stores it into this page. So I can Command or Control C to copy that, and then back over here in my week 11, I'm going to make a few lines and then paste that in there. All right. Now what I want to be able to do is I want to send whatever URI segment is coming through. I want to send this through to content because we no longer want to do just page ID. So I'm going to comment that out, and I'm going to up here say page ID is going to be equal to $this page, semicolon. So now whatever the URI segment is, or if there's no URI segment, it's just going to tell it to be home. It's going to be page ID. Now remember, over in content, we were selecting from content where ID equals page ID. But we have to change that because we're not sending an ID number anymore. Remember, in the content table, we had a field or column called ID, and we were using the hard-coded number to access the row that had contained the content that we were going to be using. Excuse me. We're going to need to make some changes to the tables in order to make this work, but for right now, we need to change this from ID to link. And that doesn't exist in the table yet. We're going to go ahead and put that in there in a second. And because link is actually a string, we need to wrap this variable in quotes. Now, this string right here, or SQL select, is already in double quotes. And so what we're doing is we're going to make this evaluation happen by putting a single quote right there. And then at the end of this thing here, we're going to add on to it a single quote inside of double quotes. So this thing's going to evaluate to whatever the page ID is. Let's say it's home. And then these double quotes go away. And so what you're left with is where link equals, and then the single quoted string, home, in case it was home, or contact, or about, whatever the case may be. Everything else here will all stay the same. Don't forget to save that. And we made some changes to index, so we should probably save that. And let's close out htaccess. Okay, so I think we're good with our code. Now let's head over to PHP MyAdmin to make our changes.